Good evening, my friends. Today I wanted to share on Genesis chapter 6, and I've been thinking about this because I was in a conversation with somebody else, and I've heard this a few times where people will say that the reason why God flooded the earth and he spared Noah is because of the Nephilim and because of the fact that Satan was trying to, uh, you know, the serpent seed, this serpent seed thing, and that Noah was the only one who was of a pure bloodline, and that's why he was spared. And I just want to show how I don't. That's not true. That takes away from some things that I just want to share about that. And it says right here in verse 5, right after the Nephilim is talked about, it says, "And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." And it's important to see here that what God says, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth. Now, it's important to understand that this judgment that came on the earth was not on the Nephilim, okay? It was on man. So that's my first point. If we say that, God was judging the Nephilim and judging the angels who had slept with the women, then that would take away responsibility from mankind. And it would change the idea to make it contrary to what it says plainly right here. Because it plainly says that God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil, and God decided to destroy man. So it wasn't because of this bloodline. It was because that men were wicked. And God, even though he knew that men were going to be wicked, I don't think he anticipated that it would be this extreme. So, um, but that's why the Lord says it repented him that he made man on the earth. He was like, man, and it just shows how real the Lord is. That even though he's all knowing and all powerful and all these things, like he still had regret. But even more important is what it says right here. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now, if Noah was just this purebred, whose bloodline wasn't infected with the serpent seed or whatever that, or Nephilim, or if he wasn't a Nephilim or whatever he was, then it takes away from God's grace. It takes away from the fact that Noah was just found God's mercy out of all the men, because Noah wasn't perfect, right? We see that about him later on. I mean, not that, you know, not to beat up Noah, but obviously he gets drunk. The first thing he does after he, has gets out of the ark is he plants a vineyard and he wants to drink some wine. You know what I mean? But he was an upright man in his generation, like up compared to everybody else. God saw something in Noah and had mercy on him, and it wasn't that he was um, any whatever. He was just he found grace. Grace is undeserved mercy. If anyone's not familiar with what grace is, but grace doesn't have anything to do with like works. It has to do with God's mercy. So Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And if we say that it was because he was of pure blood or whatever, it takes away from God's mercy, and it takes away from the picture of God's grace, of what God accomplished through Noah, and the same hope that we all have of finding grace in his eyes. But just to recap, God destroyed the earth because of man, not Nephilim. And he was grieved because of man. And it doesn't say anything about the Nephilim. So I think that we should stray away from that strange doctrine. All right, God bless you guys. Good night.